Hello, this is Jared playing Oxygen Not Included. In the last episode, I set up a deep freezer with the idea of storing some barbecue meat. I'm seeing what it's like to get the Carnivore Achievement, starting with Bionic dupes. But the other bit I have is automation stable, and I think that's pretty much all I really need to do is keep cranking out eggs, making sure they hatch. That's going to make some meat. That'll be converted to barbecue meat and stored down here. So I'm just going to let that play out until I actually get the Carnivore Achievement. Currently, I am 10% the way there. And in this episode, I think I'm going to do some industrial cooling. Now, to do industrial cooling, that basically heavily involves the steam turbine. So what I'm going to do is actually research that. We need a study terminal, material study terminal, that is. I'm going to use this wheezy wart over here with the radioactive radiation from that to actually build our system to get a new laboratory using that. And with the steam turbine, we'll do some industrial cooling so we can keep the metal that we're keeping cool here right now. Every time I make a little bit of copper, we are consuming water and at 30 so degrees. And that's outputting much hotter water over here at 60 so degrees. I'd like to avoid that leaking out into the environment. Second thing we're doing is bringing in a heavy watt wire line. That is going to power this system here. So we get a rad bolt generator and we've got a radiation lamp. Automation line to tell these machines when they need to be on and off. Basically, if we are in need of rad bolts, the material study terminal, everything's on, otherwise it's off. A little bit of lighting inside here. And I think we are ready for another dupe. If I want to get the Carnivore Achievement, I need dupes that can eat meat. This is Spark. I'm going to get them to go into a schedule, not set for the Bionic dupes, but rather the normal dupes. Maybe down here with Chop. Alright, so that is Spark joining the team. Now back to this project. We're setting up a material study terminal. Also, I see the neuro facilitator. Go take advantage of that. Hammer is going to see what they can get out of that. They've got positivity. Okay. So below is our laboratory. We've got a door here, and we're going to be firing rad bolts down into this little collector. Maybe do a little bit of mopping up. You can see eventually some of this ice might be melting away, so it might be smart to get rid of some of this ice so we can keep our feet dry. Let's look at the overall oxygen situation. We're looking good. And let's clean off the floor here with all ice in that. Just need a little bit ladder up to this soon. Now I should be getting some uranium ore from over here. There is rock. Okay, currently sleeping, but I've instructed them to dump some uranium ore into this conveyor loader. Just make sure that this is pointing down, otherwise that is just not going to work. I don't know if that door needs to be open, I'll do that anyways. Lock this one just to prevent dupes from walking and getting their head smacked by rad bolts. But let me just have a look. Okay. What are we missing? Minimum size. I did not make that big enough. Whoops. Probably just 28. If we can up that by 2, or 4 rather. Pretty easy to do. We just need to do that. That. And take this out. And I think we will have a laboratory. And I'll just go to our research plan, and what I'd like to get is renewable energy so we can get our steam turbine. I'm going to put our uranium ore right there. And I see our research terminal is, or research station is being used, but we need to wait for our first rat bolts to see the material study terminal be used. Well, I'm waiting for some rad bolts. I'm clearing out this spot down here. Unfortunately, I've got water where I want to actually build my industrial equipment and cooling system. So what I'm doing is I'm building some liquid reservoirs and starting the process of pushing that water over here. So I'll have this spot over here to do my construction. And now we're starting the process of relocating some water from here over to some liquid reservoirs. So now I'm waiting for both this water to be removed and rad bolts. So what I thought I'd do is I would build a polymer press. And the reason for that is we need a little bit of plastic if we want to make some steam turbines. So with the crude oil, or rather petroleum that we've refined here, I'm going to be taking that, pumping that into this system here of a polymer press to make a little bit of plastic, a little temperature protection to make sure it stays nice and cool. Now it's going to be very hot, so that's why I'm going to put this in this cold area. One, try to avoid the dupes getting their head smacked by red bolts, so we're going to minimize dupes going back and forth, so I'm actually going to go under to access it. Let me just check over here. I think I need to reconnect this little section like that, and I'm using insulated pipes to transport some of this hot petroleum. Alright, we get our temperature check. I'll say if it's below 30, we're good. Next dupe is assemble. Make sure we put them in a schedule. That makes sense. Throw them down here. And now the next thing I've got going on. Actually, I see that we've got some plants that are not happy. Thanks to excessive amount of hydrogen. How about I try to alleviate that? But yeah, next thing I'm doing is putting some cleanse. I want to make steel. It's part of my whole industrial setup. So I've got this auto sweeper that's going to take things like coal and clay and feed a bunch of cleanse. Okay, see our plants are happier. That's good. Store clay down here, and let's store some coal up here. We will make a little refined carbon for making steel, and let's make a bunch of ceramic over here. And I don't like to see dupes loading these machines since there's a very small amount that goes in. I'd rather have the auto sweeper do that, so discourage that by making it a priority 4. With the clan running and still waiting for more red bolts, let's go dig out this spot down here. So I'm thinking this floor right here is going to be my industrial area, and the floor underneath it, that's going to be the cooling area. Might have some industrial area below it as well in the future, such as the glass forge. Alright, now that we've got that digging dug out, let's start the process of setting up the cooling area for our industrial equipment. So for the cooling system, another thing I'm going to need is lime that we're going to get from these rock crushers. That's the input to making steel. Otherwise I'd be able to make steel because I've got refined carbon and iron. We're going to make some of the lime from fossil that we've got over here. Dig out maybe a little bit more in the meantime. Got some rock crushers. We're going to power them up. Got an auto sweeper that'll take the fossil that's being stored over here. Alright, I will just put in the command to store fossil at this location. And tell each of these that I want fossil to be converted to lime. Flint is creating a little bit of lime, but I noticed the getting of the fossil is taking a little bit longer than expected, so I've added another one of these. So we can actually have more than one dupe go to the oil biome. In fact, you know what? Let's add a third as well. Make sure I stay on top of creating enough Atmo suits. And there is our process of making some lime. So I think, yeah, there we are. I can make my first few pieces of steel even. Next part of this whole puzzle is getting a little bit of petroleum liquid on the ground. Let's do that right there. Fix that back up. And then we'll put in a whole insulated area down here. This is where we're going to build some steam turbines, have some steam, and keep everything nice and cool. While this is being constructed, we're able to continue to get more rev volts. Let's see, we've got a good amount of refined carbon, just make a little bit more. And just make a little bit of steel. But I don't want to make too much because I don't want this area down here to get too hot. Actually make it lower priority making the rock crushers. So we can concentrate on construction over using that. We got two pumps in here. I want to make a vacuum before we put in water, or at least turn the system on. Some of this petroleum that's going to be needed right here to make a little liquid lock so I can go into this very hot chamber to make some changes as we evolve the system. Petroleum here, let's open that up. Rather, yeah, empty it. There we go. We can mop up the very bottom. Put in a tile right here. What I'm aiming to do is get a little vacuum just in between these two. If I can seal this off, we can start the process of making a vacuum. By connecting this and this. There we are. We've got our vacuum in between. Pop that up. And as soon as the vacuum is created, we'll continue along. Just wondering why no research was being advanced, and that is simply because Motherboard, who was Bionic dupe, does not have the Applied Scientist booster, so we will definitely make one of those for them. Next dupe we're taking on is Sprout. Just remind myself to put them in the schedule. Put them in the same schedule as Assemble, even though they're going on break soon. I see the Applied Scientist booster. I'm going to give that to Motherboard. And we are disassembling the pump now that we've got a vacuum down in here. Actually, a little bit risky. We might be getting some carbon dioxide. Yeah, you know what I might do is I'll cancel dupes going here just to avoid that risk. Let's put in some Atmo suits to go into this zone. So I want to make sure that dupes don't go in here, breathe out any carbon dioxide. I also want to make sure that when this area gets really hot, nobody takes any damage. So just for safety, I'm going to put in some Atmo suits. We're going to need to provide some oxygen, as well as a little bit of power. And I've undocked some of these. We'll just make the Atmo, or take the Atmo suits that were there and relocate them down here. Oh, someone in trouble? Apparently not. While I'm waiting for some oxygen to load in here, I noticed that oxygen isn't looking the best towards the bottom of my base. So we're going to add in another electrolyzer. We'll take out this metal refinery. Also putting in some mesh tiling. Meant to do this earlier. Been lucky that no liquid's been landing on these guys, but they do not want any liquid, so that mesh tile will prevent any liquid from staying there. And we've got another electrolyzer running, so hopefully that's going to improve the oxygen situation down here. Next part of this setup is to install some piping down here. We've got radiant piping going through some granite tiles. We've got 2 liquid vents to send water down to keep the system cool. And in the future, I'm going to have a glass forge. That's why I'm putting this in. That's going to be used later. But right now, I'm just concentrating on cooling off the metal refinery. I'm going to put the metal refinery here. I realize that I've got this liquid reservoir that's in the way, so I'm going to relocate some of this petroleum that's in here to go down here instead. Excellent. And we're not only going to put petroleum in here, I'm going to put a little bit of petroleum in this liquid reservoir. This is going to be a coolant that's going to go in and out of the metal refinery once we get to that stage. Not sure who is currently suffocating. There is lots of non-carbon or non-oxygen areas, so lots of options of what that might be. Kind of feel like the game shouldn't really tell you if it's a problem unless it's lasted for more than a second or two, but anyway. sure we still have vacuum here. Good. Now we are starting to load in a little bit of petroleum in this liquid reservoir. Aiming for about 2 tons or so. I think that should be enough. Add a little bit more insulation just around here. Actually, hold on. We might need to do some construction first. So now I'm connecting piping going in and out of the metal refinery. We're also going to be loading in some water down here. Decided we're going to put a tile there just so we don't have water accumulate over there. Get this to be relocated up here. So with this, I guess we'll need some power connecting that. Got water going in, so we'll only need so much. Load in a good amount and then cut that pipe off. I should see some petroleum going in, so at this point, I believe we can start to make some stuff. This over by 1 maybe. But there is our metal refinery running. We're going to get our petroleum going in and out, getting hotter and hotter till this turns to steam. We still just need a little bit more red bolts, possibly, to finish off our research. Alright, let's cut off our water. That's going to be enough. Next dupe I'll take on is nails here. Let's put them... Technically, they're going to go on break right now, but whatever. Research has been complete on our steam turbine, so I'm going to start now doing superheated forging. Dig out a spot underneath here. And let's just observe this to make sure everything seems like it's going right. So we've got petroleum going in, much hotter petroleum going out. Looks good so far. Maybe we'll put a bin here for some of the inputs of steel. And it should slowly be getting warmer and warmer down in this zone. I'm going to, if I haven't already... Okay, actually, we're not sending petroleum to this guy anymore. I'm not going to produce plastic at this location. So we'll destroy that. And we'll see about making our first steam turbine. First one will sit right there. Have insulate line going down. Let's just tear down that little temp section. So once we eventually get steam, this guy is going to keep that steam cool. And that's how the whole cooling process will operate. If we're able to create that, might as well put in another. I'll keep asking for more and more steel. We'll keep pushing that out. Oh, there is a little bit of steam in the air. This guy's gonna need a path there. Maybe we'll distract this so we can get another steam turbine in. And over here, I will put my refined carbon, lime. And we'll see if we can push in one more of these guys. And let's have an insulated line connect to there. Currently over 100 degrees because of all the steel and iron we're producing. Now what I'm doing is I'm moving my polymer press down into the zone, making this out of steel. We're going to be pushing in some petroleum. Take the petroleum that I've stored over here. And the other thing, before I forget, let's make sure we've got an insulated line of carbon dioxide. It's going to be warm carbon dioxide that goes out of this. So we'll head down this direction with that. Actually, think that's the same pipe. Go across like that. So we've got some heavy watt wire going in here, some petroleum. And we'll be able to make more plastic this time, not worrying about heat. So we're consuming petroleum from outside the system. Obviously, we don't want to take this away from our metal refine. Okay, who is suffocating? Spark in this case. Looks like a limiting factor of what we want for steel is lime. So I'm going to go over here, make a path to some of this fossil so we can continue our production of steel. So at this point, if any of the dupes want access to the plastic that the polymer press is creating, they're going to have to go in here. Not the end of the world, but it'd be nice if we would actually take it, push it through, transfer a bit of the heat into this area, and then dump it over here. And this will be especially true, or especially nice once I start getting in some molten glass. So we can cool that glass and have glass dumped off right there. Not entirely sure why the relocate here is not happening. That's high priority. Anyway. And I think it is time for yet another dupe. Next dupe, joining the team, muscles. Let's throw them down here. So we're going to need some power to this conveyor loader. I'll need to specify what to take out. So that's plastic. Still waiting for a little bit of research so we can make glass forge. Oh, auto sweeper being made out of lead. No, that's not what I had intended. I wanted that made out of steel. Was this made out of steel? It was, okay. And I see the steam turbines running, so not only is that continuing to keep this cool about 125 degrees or so, I'm also getting a little bit of power back that is being spent here in the metal refinery. So here is a little bit of plastic going through our setup. And being dumped out there. Just a little bit easier for the dupes. I actually might make this sealed up so the dupes can't get to it in the future. So actually this might be kind of critical. if we want to get some of the resources such as plastic. So we have a bit of a problem going on. I did not expect it to get so warm up here so quick. Thought I had a little bit more time to deal with that, but this Atmosuit dock having a bit of an issue. So we're going to change the material this stuff is made out of. And then after that, I think we need to get our cooling system together so we can keep the top of this area cool, and also use that to keep the rest of the base cool in general. The lime is a limiting factor, so just moving this auto sweeper over by one. We're going to be putting in lighting, which we don't have at the moment technically. I guess, yeah, no, actually neither of them technically are lit up. When you consider that the dupe here is not being sensed by this. I think all I need to do to finish up, a single light there. Oh, and nuts, forgot to plug this in. Which is a little annoying because I need to be able to stand up there. Maybe I can get up from this direction. I don't know if anyone can reach still. Okay, that technically got rid of my nature reserve, so let's put this back up and check that we still have a nature reserve on base. Okay, we do. And I want to get enough steel to be able to make a thermo aqua tuner, so I'll ask for even more steel. So I'm going to cool off, or at least attempt to cool off these steam turbines in a different way than I usually do. I'm using conductive panels. But it's scarily hot, actually. Not liking it at all. So we're going to have to push through, unfortunately. Good enough steel. I definitely should be turning this off. Yeah, this... No. This is a mess. I'm going to have to go back. So I definitely screwed up. What I'm going to do is I just roll back to the start of cycle 75. We're going to put in some Atmosuits just to make it safe in this area. Deliver a suit of each of these locations. Maybe we'll ask for, undock some of these again. Should see some oxygen loading, good. And I'll go back to my design to try to cool off the top of the steam turbines. We definitely seem to be doing well below it. But I also need to make sure the area up here is nice and cool. Not just for the dupe's sake, but the steam turbines themselves as well. Okay, we're going to try this construction again, this time with Atmosuits. It is pretty hot above here. So we'll have a... aqua tuner that's going to go and operate. It's going to take some polluted water. Going to have to load that from the top down in. Going to take the temperature. Let's say if the temperature is above 25, we'll run our aqua tuner. just relocate this line right there. Current temperature getting close to the 125. That's the point that steam is not hot enough to run our steam turbines. And I think this might be the point where we... Oh, I see a pep. But this might be a point where we don't get any more dupes for the time being. Whole area is warming up really quick. Okay, so what I intended here is to cut this off. We'll connect this into our line. So essentially, and I don't know whether this is going to be enough, but I've got each steam turbine connected in with 2 of these panels, liquid panels. We'll see if that's going to do the trick or not in the end. I'm not going to operate the metal refinery. We'll keep everything as it is until we can prove this system is actually able to keep the top of this system cool. If this doesn't work, I'll do my typical setup, which is just dumping liquid on top of steam turbines and put radiant pipes through it. Wonder as well, just to really help this out, we'll put a few pieces of radiant pipes through like this. Though that's going to be in air, not liquid. Current setup anyway. Okay, just one more time, or pipe needed, I believe. Okay, and our thermo aqua tuner is now running, so that is going to take in liquid. Liquid that's coming in around 44, going out at around 20, 30. We'll see how that operates over time. So if I want to give this a proper test, I suppose maybe what I should do is disable this building. We'll enable this building, because we don't want any dupes to go down here in the hot area. And I will try to make some more steel. And then we'll go on to the next part of this project, as long as this works, which is bringing in and cooling our glass. Right, so hot petroleum going in, even hotter petroleum going out. And so far, I would say it's looking pretty good. Yeah, much better. Still needs to be tested over time, though. Just looking at my stable setup, I'm not sure if that's just from eggs that were dropped here and never brought into this area, or I've got something going wrong. But anyways, we will do a big attack. His calories are starting to get a little bit low, so this should definitely help. At the same time, I've got a glass forge putting in down here and over on this asteroid. I've been running the manual generator for far too long over on this asteroid, so we're going to get a hydrogen generator, tap into the hydrogen line to do that. We're going to store the input to this, some sand right here. Sure, we've got insulated piping that goes up, pushes some of that into here. All right, and our calories much higher now. Double check that I in fact told the dupes not to eat meat. Good. And now we will make some glass. We'll see how this system works. Still see these steam turbines cooling out. That's good. So we've got an auto sweeper to load some glass into the glass forge. Like going down here to operate the machinery. Let's see if this actually works. Liquid pipe in here that's not actually needed. So that gives us glass. It's really hot glass. What I intended to do is have this pick it up for us. And push this through this zone. With the glass coming out pretty hot. Hopefully much cooler. Still pretty hot. I think we could definitely do better. Probably one way to do that is to have more of this granite tiling along this way. So I'll move up the heavy wire that's here. So we're going to have to put those on. Hydrogen generator's just been built over on this world. Maybe I'll turn this off until we fix this problem. Or improvement anyway. The other thing that could potentially help, it's going to take a little bit of metal. Could put some metal tiling through instead. See if doing a combination of this and adding a little bit more granite tiling will help. Okay, let's go back to operating this. So that is some glass lining up. Now we will see this glass go through. So right now we're at 300 something. 219. 200 and something. Could get it a little bit cooler, but I might just, you know what? We'll just add in a few more. I think we'll just leave it like that. Actually, maybe add one final piece right there at the start. Alright, let's help this to minimize the time on their manual generator so we can do more interesting work in the future. Tapping into hydrogen here and hydrogen here. We just need a little ladder here to complete that little section. Taking out our battery. And adding in a line right here for hydrogen. So that we're able to stay off our manual generator over on this asteroid. Alright, that is nice for that tube. For the dupes over here, I think I'm going to finish. Oh, can get rid of that pump now. We're going to finish on that. Hopefully this continues to operate. Let's look at the overall temperature. It's pretty warm. Maybe I'll set this to be a little bit cooler, 23. But we're going to produce all kinds of stuff. More steel, a little bit of gold. All kinds of glass being able to be produced. And I haven't even thought much about the Carnivore Achievement, apart from the fact that I've been just making sure that I print dupes, just so that they can go down to the Great Hall, grab some of that barbecue meat, doing what Spark's doing right now, chewing away at that. We've got a fridge here off the deep freezer, loading that in just before I finish. We're on cycle 80. We'll see where we are with the Carnivore Achievement. Oh, Locavore Achievement's done. That is actually nice. That's a big deal. But 200,000 calories left to go. Fully will produce or print a few more dupes when I come back and figure out what we're going to do next now that we've got all this industrial equipment running and operating. Anyways, thank you for watching, and hopefully I will see you next time. Maybe at that point I actually will get the Carnivore Achievement. Actually, I think probably what I'll do is, well, I'll think about it, but I might get into the world of farming since I've got the Locavore Achievement. I could also tap into this polluted water vent. Let's look at the oxygen situation. That definitely still needs to be improved. Anyways, lots to be done. I'll see you next time. But actually, maybe before I forget, I'll click on Analyze right here. And while this is dormant, make a path up so that the dupes can actually get to it for the time being. Anyways, see you later. Alright, bonus little section. Why is this failing? Because I'm dropping eggs off here and not here. Whoops. Okay, that makes a big difference. Let's patch this up before I finish fully for the day. Also, just looking at a comment, Cedric mentioned, watch this on getting too cold, because obviously I'm getting in hydrogen over here, which is extremely cold. So obviously not an issue at the moment, probably because this guy produced a lot of hot hydrogen, but that is something to look at over time. In fact, I could potentially utilize the hydrogen that's coming in from where now? From down here. So that nice cool hydrogen is a source of cooling that we could add to the base. Bring that in at some point. But let's just make sure that this gets built. Otherwise, we're going to have to keep... Oh yeah, not only that, I've got all these eggs that have been thrown into the wrong place. Maybe the easiest thing to do is make this temporary storage bin up here. We'll put in all the eggs. Actually, it should be all the eggs that were marked there. So I will click sweep only. Critter eggs. Being relocated up here. See, no one's building this. But anyway, we'll take that out. Dig underneath it. Have eggs dropped off down here. That's where they should have been. Any remaining critters we'll have to attack the manual way. And there's Bite. Making our egg drop off. Okay, alright, that improves that little setup. Alright, see you next time. Okay, really trying to finish for tonight. I just found one final thing. A lot of sweating dupes here. So I'm going to aim to fix this situation. I've got this cooling system I want to connect into. So I'm going to send that over here. Have maybe one of these conductive panels set up like that. Set that up like that. This go down. Have this go up. Maybe put just a single radiant pipe like that, just to keep the area cool. Let's see what this does. Alright, we should see our cooling line go round. Hopefully that is going to help the situation around there. Still pretty warm. I'm not sure. I normally always add liquid. Thought I'd try something different, but I mean, we are adding lots of machinery down here. That's the other thing. Okay, that's something I'll come back to another time. Oh, one final thing, and then I gotta get to bed. Let's add a single wire right there. Oh, I think that's one of the ones I had to roll back on, didn't I? It's always a pain when you have to roll back a cycle and there's something you forgot. Anyways, that's that one reconnected.